You ever just stare at your bank account and feel this sudden quiet panic set in? Like you're doing everything right. You went to school, you got the good job, you're making a really solid income, but then the end of the month rolls around and you feel like you're standing completely still? Look, if that sounds familiar, you are absolutely not alone. And more importantly, you are not failing. You're just caught in a system that's designed to look like a ladder, but it actually operates like a treadmill. So welcome to This Explainer. Today we're handing you the ultimate cheat code to escape these quiet, invisible systems that are keeping you broke. We're going to rebuild your financial reality right from the ground up.
All right, so here is our roadmap for This Explainer. We're hitting the hidden wealth traps, the macro illusion, the cheapness paradox, the 3 wealth levels, the 250K defense playbook, and finally, stealth wealth. We have got a lot of ground to cover, so let's jump right in.
Section 1. The hidden wealth traps. Basically, how the system quietly drains your paycheck. These are those everyday, systemic wealth destroyers that feel totally normal to us, mostly because literally everyone around you is falling for them.
Let's talk about the math of the new car penalty. Meet Troy and Chad. Now, these two guys have the exact same engineering degree, the exact same income, and they started working at the exact same time. But Troy, he drives a brand new F-150 with a $1,000 monthly payment. Chad drives a used 2020 Camry that is completely paid off. The result of that one choice? Troy has a $14,000 net worth, and Chad is sitting on $340,000. Troy bought into an identity, but Chad bought his future time. He took that massive monthly difference and he invested it. That right there is the devastating mathematical reality of auto debt.
And buying new is just so toxic to your wealth because that depreciation cliff is brutal. On average, a new car loses 42% of its value in just 5 years. Buying an EV, you're looking at a 57% drop. And a luxury car like the BMW 7 Series, that loses a staggering 67%. These aren't just vehicles, they're essentially financial paper shredders. When you finance a new car, you are quite literally torching your retirement money just to maintain that new car smell.
Okay, let's pivot to another massive trap. This is the two-income trap. Back in 1973, Tom and Susan lived on one single income and had over $36,000 left over after fixed costs. And yes, that's adjusted for inflation. Fast forward to today, Nico and Hazel have two great incomes, putting them in the top 25% of all earners. Yet they actually have $800 less in spending money than Tom and Susan did. Why is that? Well, dual-income families have accidentally bid each other into a corner. Two incomes meant banks let families borrow twice as much, which just drove the prices of housing, safe neighborhoods, and daycare absolutely sky high.
Which brings us to this incredibly painful number, $43. That is often what's left in Nico and Hazel's checking account on the 28th of the month. They earn a massive 6-figure salary, they look super rich on LinkedIn, but the reality, they're drowning in fixed costs. The bidding war for housing and childcare has entirely stolen their financial margin. Moving right along to Section 2, the macro illusion, the invisible threats to your portfolio. Because these traps aren't just inside our households, right? They're in the broader economy. There's a macroeconomic storm brewing, and there's a huge hidden danger inside your so-called safe investments.
Now, you might think you're perfectly safe, tucked away in a boring, diversified S&P 500 index fund. But take a look at this heavy concentration. Just 7 tech and AI stocks make up a staggering 35% of the entire index. You aren't really buying 500 companies anymore. You're making a massive, concentrated bet on 7 tech giants. And right now, the U.S. stock market is valued at a record 231% of the entire U.S. economy. It is historically expensive, and that lack of true diversification is a major, silent risk.
And hanging over all of that is this catastrophic macro reality, the $38.9 trillion U.S. national debt. The numbers here are just mind-boggling. We are currently spending over $1 trillion a year just on the interest payments for this debt. To put that into perspective for you, the government now spends more paying bondholders than it does on our entire national defense budget. That limits economic growth and practically guarantees that inflation and higher taxes will be the levers the system pulls just to survive.
Section 3. The cheapness paradox. Why pinching pennies keeps you poor. Look, with all these traps around us, it's super easy to panic. But why do we willingly fall right into them? Mostly because we confuse being cheap with being wealthy. True wealth isn't about saving pennies. It's about calculating a strategic return on your investment.
Check out this gas station example. It perfectly breaks down the difference. Say you drive 15 minutes across town to save 10 cents a gallon. Boom, you just saved $1.50. But wait a second, you just burned a gallon of gas making the round trip and you wasted 30 minutes of your time. If your time is worth, let's say, $25 an hour, that little trip actually cost you $14.79. This is the scarcity mindset in action. Cheapness mathematically destroys your wealth and it depletes your brain's decision-making power. You end up agonizing over $2 while a $600 car payment sits right there in your driveway.
Okay, Section 4, 3 wealth levels, the mathematical milestones of true freedom. So how do we actually escape this financial matrix? It's not magic, it's just a math formula built on 3 sequential milestones.
The legendary Charlie Munger really said it best. Hitting that first $100,000 in invested net worth is the hardest hurdle you are ever going to face. But you got to do it. Why? Because it creates escape velocity. Once you hit 100K, you essentially buy back your brain. It removes that constant, low-grade financial static that runs in the background of your mind, a stress that researchers literally equate to chronic sleep deprivation.
And just look at how the timeline of wealth radically accelerates once you clear that hurdle. Saving that first 100K might take you 8 grueling years, where the market barely even helps you out. But the next 100K? That only takes 5 years. And going from $500,000 to a full $1 million, that takes the exact same 8 years it took you to scrape together your very first 100 grand. Your money literally takes on a second job and begins compounding all on its own, throwing off tens of thousands of dollars while you are sound asleep.
Which leads us to Section 5, the $250,000 defense playbook, protecting the wealth you've built. Okay, so you did the hard work. You hit $250,000. What now? Well, now the rules completely change. You have to pivot to the boring but absolutely necessary defensive playbook to protect those growing assets.
Consider Noah and Lee. Both of these guys hit $250K at the exact same time. But Lee thought he could just keep playing offense. He ignored the boring defense. So when a car accident lawsuit and sudden home repairs hit him out of nowhere, he was forced to liquidate assets at the worst possible time. It dropped his net worth all the way back down to $190K. Noah, on the other hand, bought defensive insurance and strategy. When life hit him, his money stayed invested and grew to $850K. Same exact income, totally different defense.
So what exactly is this defense? Here's your actionable checklist. For just a few $100 a year, an umbrella insurance policy protects you from devastating lawsuits. A fee-only fiduciary and a really sharp CPA, they're going to save you thousands. A rock-solid 6 to 12-month emergency fund stops you from selling stocks in a panic. And finally, a living trust and term life insurance protect your family. Seriously, just check these off one boring weekend at a time. It is a game changer.
And finally, Section 6, Stealth Wealth. The ultimate flex is invisible. Once your defense is locked in, we need to wrap up this framework by attacking the absolute final illusion. It's this incredibly toxic idea that society pushes on us every single day. The idea that the whole point of having money is looking rich to impress other people.
If you're buying status symbols just to show everyone you're doing well, you instantly trap yourself in what's called the appearance prison. Think about it. If you buy the luxury car, now you need the luxury clothes and the massive house to match it, right? It guarantees this massive lifestyle inflation that will totally devour all of that beautiful compounding interest we just talked about. Even worse, broadcasting your money changes your relationships and attracts people with ulterior motives. So the true goal, the actual finish line, is stealth wealth. This means accumulating significant money, but still happily driving that reliable used Camry. It means refusing to let society's bidding war dictate the size of your life. When you practice stealth wealth, you maintain absolute optionality. You have genuine relationships, because people like you for you, not for your wallet. And your financial margin, it remains fiercely protected. I want to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. Really look at your life right now. If one of your household paychecks just disappeared tomorrow, would you comfortably adapt, or would the financial trap snap shut? Take the framework from this explainer, refuse the appearance prison, deploy your defensive playbook, and let compounding do all the heavy lifting. Because that is exactly how you buy back your own time and finally escape the financial matrix for good.